No real surprises out of the Detroit City election Tuesday, but you're left with an interesting power dynamic. We
Yeah.
had 6 new council members will be joining that body in January. Meanwhile, Mike Duggan goes to a 3rd term, and by a big margin. He goes into office fairly settled with his structure and in place. This new council's got to learn the ropes. He'll have a very distinct advantage in the governing balance, won't he?
I think you will. There are a lot of people pointing to the idea that a lot of the candidates, the new candidates who were elected with really progressive agendas, District 4 in particular, and a couple others. You had these really progressive candidates win. And look, that's great. But the rule of 5, of course, still applies on council. There are still 5 votes, I think, as I count them, who are going to be pretty sympathetic to Mayor Duggan. I think Duggan has a distinct advantage, not just because of his electoral power at this point, but also because he's walking around with $800 million falling out of his pockets, and he alone really gets to decide where that money goes. Those council members are going to need to deliver results in their districts. The only way to do that with this ARPA money is to play along with the mayor.
You had 2 council members, Leland, Gabe Leland and Andrew Spivey, who were taken out of the race after they were pled guilty to corruption charges. 2 others dropped out for lack of interest. Janae Ayers, who also was touched a bit by this towing scandal, we don't know where that's going to go, finished 1st in the primary, 3rd last night. Voters seem to react to her being caught up in this, but they elected Mary Waters, who has no clean record herself.
Detroiters, the truth is that they're very forgiving of politicians, especially African-American politicians who get themselves or find themselves in trouble. A lot of that has to do with the disproportionate way that African-Americans are targeted by officials for wrongdoing.
And Councilman Benson, who was the other council person whose office was raided, he was unopposed, so he'll be back. But we don't know where this investigation is going. Your old colleague, M.L. Elric, who I thought ran a pretty good campaign, your old Free Press colleague, went down pretty hard in that East Side district.
I think Mike Elric was outclassed in the sense of the grassroots kind of politicking that is really key in that district. His opponent, Letitia Johnson, really did understand that. She comes more from that world than he does, certainly, and voters responded on election day.
But we did see more diversity in the suburbs. I think it was 3 suburbs elected first-time Muslim mayors, including Dearborn, the country's largest Arab American population. For the first time, Mayor-elect Hammoud will take over there, and Galib in Hamtramck, right, became that enclave's first mayor. So you're seeing political power in the suburbs starting to broaden and diversify.
Yeah, you are, and that's because the suburbs themselves are changing dramatically. Dearborn may have changed more in the last 20 years than any place in America. If you think of the influx of Arab Americans to that community and the outflux of white voters. The other dynamic that we'll start to see in next year's elections, in the 22 elections, the midterm elections, I think, because of the new maps, is the growing power of African Americans in the suburbs. That will come with some new kinds of political power that could see suburban African Americans elected to posts where they're representing the suburbs and the city, representing African Americans in both places, something we see in Congress right now, but don't see in the state legislature. I think we will start to see that happen. This is becoming a less segregated area than it used to be, and that's a good thing.